So I'm here with Rodney Dial. He's the Ketchikan Gateway Borough Mayor, and I'd first like to just get a quick comment about how you're liking your new role. You just started in the fall. You were elected, so tell us a little bit about how it's going.
Well, thanks, Larry. Actually, it's going pretty good. I was elected in October and been staying very active. In fact, I just got back from a month-long advocacy trip working on the state level and then on the federal level to try to improve the living conditions in Ketchikan.
Sure. So that leads us to the question, the Monday night meeting. Austin previewed the meeting. Two main topics that night. There may have been more, but was, hey, what's happening with the food trucks ordinances, and then this housing issue.
So regarding the food truck issue from the borough standpoint is pretty much done. To allow these on local roads, the city and the borough needed to make some changes. The changes have been made on the borough level. Basically, the contention during the meeting was whether or not we would allow trucks to sell things other than food. And so an amendment was put forward by Assemblymember Westergaard, and that was just to limit it to food trucks only, and that passed. Another issue dealt with the borough's long-standing goal of housing affordability and housing needs, and we advanced that issue as well, and it's going to result in the formation of a staff-led committee that will explore into the housing issue in greater detail and allow us to determine what sort of regulations we might need or actions we might need to take to support affordable housing in Ketchikan.
So just a little bit more on that. The staff would deal with that, but would the end goal to be borough, it could go in any number of directions, borough allocating land for that, the borough creating a housing authority, where is that going?
Well, it's just staff-led, so the staff will help direct us, but it could go potentially anywhere. It's going to incorporate many people from the community, from builders to community activists, and the goal is really to identify strategies that will allow us to keep affordable housing in Ketchikan.
Okay, and they don't have a definition for what that means, affordable housing? I mean, is it an income level thing?
Well, obviously that's different for all kinds of people, but you know, one of my goals is to limit housing increases and rental increases to no more than the cost of inflation. What we don't want to see is the gentrification that's occurred in places like Seattle, where you have these communities where average people used to live, like Seattle and San Francisco, and now they're essentially communities where only the rich and the very poor can live. So that's kind of the goal, would be to keep that small town atmosphere and small town affordability of housing.
Well, in places like New York, they do rent, whatever they call
Rent
it.
control.
Rent control. Would that be part of this kind of a thought process, or?
Definitely not in the beginning, no.
Yeah, okay.
That's pretty draconian.
Yeah. Well, anyway, that's where some of them go. So, any other, at this point, is it a 1 year process, half year, you know?
Well, the Assembly's goal was that it would be expedited, but it's hard to put a timetable on it until you really know the scope of it. So that's something that's going to be developed in the coming months.
And when you say staff, would there be like the planning department? What staff members would be involved in this?
Primarily planning.
Yeah, okay.
Probably the borough attorney though as well.
Sure. Can we? I want to. When here a few months ago, you proposed a park on some borough property out by Ward Lake. Forgive me. And where's that at? Maybe you could describe it for people that aren't familiar with what you had proposed, and then comment on where it's at and how it's.
Sure. So one of the things we've heard loud and clear is the increasing levels of frustration from people in the community about excessive tourism. And in looking at the issue, one of the things that we can do to address that is provide offsets. And offsets are, as development increases, you also set aside land for public use. Now, the borough does own a 40-acre tract of land out by Ward Lake. As long as we own the land, it's potentially subject to sale. It was certainly my belief that the public would not support the sale of that because of where it's located. Most people view it as recreational. So the thought process is that we would take that land and designate it as a future park. And by doing that, we kind of protect it, and it takes it off the table for commercial development. I personally believe that if we do this, assuming that we have a strong economy in the years ahead, my plan would be to develop a master plan for what that park could become, with many different elements. You'll see here on the table I have brochures for professional dog parks, and I've had people talk about disc golf, and we talked about an amphitheater and those kind of things. But it could be any number of things. So the first step of that is we'll develop a master plan. We'll do that without using local taxpayer money. That would be the goal. Once we develop a master plan, we would want to take that to the public and get public input and ask them, is this something you want to move forward with? We could do it in phases, we could do it all at once, and then we'd identify a funding method for that. And once again, my goal would be to not use any taxpayer money, so potentially working with the cruise agencies to help fund it, or some other method. But at the very least, designated as a future park so that it's taken from development. Some way to give back to the people, basically.
Mm-hmm. So to follow up on this possible funding in the park, there was some concept of possibly using head tax monies. I know those are restricted. I know Skagway has been threatened to be sued. Juneau was sued, so that's kind of a contentious area. What's your thought on that?
Well, we certainly wouldn't use it if we thought we would be sued. But I believe there's been somewhat of a mood change with the industry since that. I know the industry did not want to go into a combative type of role against local communities. I've had some conversations with different people. I don't really want to go into that, but my goal would be to, once we identify a cost for a professionally developed plan, to take that to the industry and to see if I could work out a solution in which they would authorize us to use the funds for that plan. Once we get that plan, something just really nice that we can show the people, that would be essentially the best recreational opportunity they could potentially have in the island. Then to go back to the industry and see what kind of method we could work out to fund that. So, it's a long shot, but just so that everybody knows, we've not spent any money on this. It's an idea, it's a vision, it's an opportunity, and so
I know that the governor's budget at one time proposed cutting school bond debt reimbursement to the borough. I don't know exactly where that stands, if it's been added back in, maybe you can speak to that if you have any specific knowledge and how that would affect Ketchikan and the borough.
Yes. So school bond debt reimbursement was stopped last session. That resulted in an increase in borough expenditures of about $1.2 million a year. It has not been added back into the budget. I don't anticipate that it's going to be added into the budget this year. Oil prices, as you know, have tanked in just the last few days. It's made the situation in Juneau more dire and far less likely that we're going to get that money. The good thing is that the borough has conservatively managed its finances for many years. We do have sufficient reserves. We're not anticipating a tax increase this year, and we'll be able to absorb those costs for at least.
As we just got here today, you mentioned that the governor had declared a state of emergency around the coronavirus. Can you speak to that in relationship to the borough as well?
Yes, so just a few minutes ago, the governor has declared a state of emergency regarding the COVID-19 virus. This was after the World Health Organization declared it a global pandemic. The declaration, really, all the declaration means is that it allows the state to access funds and resources that it would not have access to without the declaration. They anticipate that this is going to spread in Alaska at some point. And the main thing right now is to institute safety practices that will limit the spread so that our hospitals are not overwhelmed.
Sure. All right, well, thanks for your time, Rodney, and we'll hope to talk to you again in a month or so.
Hey, thanks for watching Ketchikan Alaska News. This is a little hobby effort of mine to try and bring one daily story to people here in Ketchikan or past members of the community, people who love and like Ketchikan. I try to do just political stories or stories of interest, sports and so forth. If you have any ideas or suggestions, you can email me at ketchikanalaskanews@gmail.com. You can also contribute. It takes a little bit of money running around doing this kind of thing. So there's a donate button on the opening page of the YouTube channel. It helps if you subscribe, like, comment, share all these videos that are free to do that. So please do that. Any other comments or suggestions, just give me an email or give me a call. Thanks again for watching Ketchikan, Alaska News. Don't you love that snow?